A man wearing both hat and kerchief on his head led them down a narrow, laddered passage into what he called the 'tween decks. There Alice entertained herself, looking at strange faces and listening to strange tongues, as her mother hung a curtain around a row of bunks, no wider than a set of dough trays. Alice had only just sorted the people around her into families, when the tramp of feet overhead grew louder, and the creaking and groaning of the ship grew stronger. The deck below her feet began to slant, a little, and then a little more, and a collection of cries sprung up around them. "We're away! We sail!" A small child wailed. A woman. Another. Alice looked at her mother and saw her eyes brim. Alice returned to her study of the oddly dressed, strangely gabbling people around her, and felt herself well entertained, until they began losing their stomachs. Alice's mother was the first in their family to turn the colour of paste and go up to the rail. By the time she returned, 6 small children had already washed the 'tween decks with their vomit. Alice's brothers went next, and last Alice, too sick to notice anything around her. When she returned below, the boards beneath her feet had already turned slick, the air sour and rancid, and the strange families that had amused Alice not long before now seemed too close, too loud, too familiar. After a time, Alice's mother couldn't raise herself to climb the companionway to the deck, and Alice, who had stopped getting sick first, was assigned to run up and down with the bucket. Her first trip above in health amazed her. She could look around her now and saw the sails were indeed great and stiff as her brothers had said. The beams indeed sturdy. The ocean indeed wider than anything Alice had ever seen or imagined. The air off the deck felt like a cool, damp hand on Alice's hot forehead. She breathed it in as far as it would go and held on to it through her return below as long as she was able. With each trip above, Alice noticed that the wind blew harder, which Alice's father told her was a good thing because it would push them faster to Philadelphia. But Alice thought it good because it built white-topped mountains out of flat seawater and crashed them on deck in great snow showers. But after a time, Alice's father took the bucket from her and wouldn't let her go on the deck any more. She heard him whisper to her mother of a young boy who had been swept overboard. To which Alice's mother replied, "Lucky boy," a remark Alice didn't understand, and which her father wouldn't explain to her. At last, Alice's mother's stomach settled, but she began to run, as if from a physic, and the brothers too, the stink of their running worse than the stink of the vomit. Alice begged to go out on the deck and cried, which only caused her father to slap her and tell her to go clean up her brothers, so she gave up crying. By now, Alice felt well enough to be quite hungry. But the meat they gave her to eat was so salted that she was in great thirst every minute, and the water so black and thick she didn't like to drink it. There came a row of days of much the same greyness, where it seemed that everyone but Alice and her father lay sick and moaning. But after a time, a few of the men began to raise themselves, and the talk began. At first in a low rumble, and then in something louder, with shouting in it. Alice strayed close enough to listen, and learned that the wind had come around from the wrong direction, blowing so hard that the captain had ordered the crew to take down sail, which made them drift far off their course for Philadelphia. Some of the men wanted to turn back to London, but some didn't, and Alice's father finally shouted at them that they might as well stop jawing because the captain wasn't going to turn around on account of a few days' short rations. It was true that the salt meat had run out, but Alice didn't mind because her tongue and lips had begun to blister from it, and even though the biscuit they gave her had bugs in it that she had to pick out and snap between her fingers. Alice's mother was the first to get fevered. She moaned and called out whenever the waves smashed the ship and knocked her about. One of the men yelled at Alice's father to shut her up, and Alice's father hit the man in the face, so other men had to push Alice's father to the ground until he quieted. The brothers' fevers came on next, one fast upon the other, but they made no noise at all, which disturbed Alice as much as her mother's cries. After a time,